on 5G. There is a conspiracy going around now that 5G, and if I may, is partially partially the cause of coronavirus, because 5G causes the blood that's circulating in your body to be unable to carry oxygen.
Crazy.
Now let me give you the whole thing here. What's especially horrifying about the critical care of coronavirus patients is they're not suffering from viral pneumonia, rather than an ability to absorb or carry oxygen in the blood. They say that this is exactly what 5G does. It kills the ability of the body to carry enough oxygen in the blood. Tell me about 5G.
Right. So of course, that particular conspiracy is it's baseless. It's not founded on anything really. At the simplest level, mobile phones and cell phone towers, they emit radio waves. So that's radio frequency radiation. The key part to understand is that it's a form of radiation called non-ionizing radiation. And so our bodies have been experiencing this kind of radiation our whole lives. It's completely normal. It's all around us. And here's the key point. The key thing is that this kind of non-ionizing radiation does not damage DNA or cell tissue in any way whatsoever. So not only can it not have any negative effects on our immune system, it also can't cause any forms of mutations. That was another conspiracy theory I was asked about, as to whether or not 5G cell towers could cause the coronavirus to mutate, and that's what created COVID-19 in the first place, which of course is absolutely not true.
Isn't this the same kind of stuff we have about every new technology? Didn't we have this about radio towers, and then television towers, and then cell phone towers?
Absolutely, with every successive generation. And not ironically, these new generations of wireless technology that come along every 10 years, these conspiracy theories pop up, for 12 to 18 months, and eventually they go away and they come back with the next generation of wireless technology.
So, but 5G is different. I mean, you're not supposed to stand in front of one of the towers, right? Can it cook you?
What? No. And obviously, no network would ever be designed so that we carry around the base station right next to our head. Yes, the power levels are higher than 4G. That's a natural result of the evolution to operating at higher frequency bands. But these cell towers are hundreds of feet, sometimes miles away from where anybody would be using their cell phone. And also worth mentioning, the FDA specifies what level is safe for the human body, and the current regulations have basically a 50-fold safety margin in them right now. So, in other words, there's a tremendous amount of cushion.
So you don't buy any of the so-called studies that show that it causes mental illness, that it's causing a lack of oxygen in the hemoglobin, none of that?
Absolutely not. There, again, with non-ionizing radiation, there's not even the potential for damage to DNA or cell tissue. It might be worth mentioning there was a very interesting study done in Denmark. It was kind of the largest percentage of a population. They analyzed about 360,000 mobile phone subscribers over a period of more than a decade, looking for some kind of connection between, for example, a brain tumor or brain cancer and cell phone usage. And they were completely inconclusive. There was no evidence whatsoever to indicate that there were any negative health effects.
No, I saw a study just a few months ago that shows that if you're using your cell phone and you keep it by your head, it's actually causing like little devil horns to grow out of the back of your spine. I don't know if you saw that. That was an actual report online. I don't know if you saw that, but
I didn't see that one. There was, though, you might be interested, another study that was done. It was actually conducted by the National Institutes of Health and the FDA. And what they did is they did what you suggested. They put basically a very high power radio transmitter next to rats and exposed them to this non-ionized radiation. And what they found was that the animals that were exposed to this non-ionized radiation actually lived longer than the control animals that weren't exposed to it.
all right, I think we're gonna leave it at that. Jeff, tell me any updates on the. Do you know anything about the hydroxychloroquine? Or any updates on any of the medicines that are going through the vaccines or cures or anything that you've seen?
Yeah, the hydroxychloroquine combined with azithromycin, the antibiotic, has produced some fabulous results within 5 days. Most patients actually test negative for COVID-19. The only caveat is that only about 20 people were tested in that particular clinical trial, but the results were very positive. All of the other tests right now are still in very early stages. We're still waiting to get some data, which we should have by the end of the month. But since you and I last spoke, there are at least 5 more vaccines in development to tackle COVID-19. So it's all very exciting, very positive news from the industry.
Are any of these coming from like socialized medicine, or are these all coming from the free market?
All from the free market, all from the private sector, with one exception. University of Pittsburgh, for example, University of Georgia have both developed some potential vaccine candidates. So their University of Washington as well has been doing some great work. So there is some development coming out of academia that's worth mentioning.
Jeff, thank you so much. Do you have anything else on the technology front that is exciting that you're seeing that will play a role in either what's happening with our society or anything having to do with what we're going through now? Do you see anything?
Well, if anything, this current pandemic has raised the profile of how critical our communications network and infrastructure has become. We've seen, for example, data traffic over wireless networks spike by 50%, and our 4G networks are overloaded, which really demonstrates why our 5G networks, which can have so much greater capacity, are so critical to our nation's infrastructure. In fact, just in DC, I've been testing the 5G wireless networks, and the speeds are extraordinary, as much as 1.7 gigabits per second, which is more than 100 times faster than what you or I would normally experience on a 4G network. And these networks are live, up and running today. We've got over 110 cities in the United States that have 5G network coverage.
What's not coming back, Jeff? I mean, I saw this thing in Washington State, and they said they're closing the schools, and they intend on coming back next year, but they want to make sure that they can do virtual schools for next year as well, yada, yada. What are some of the things that you think are just not going to come back? How is this going to change us?
I like to think about this as a modification of our normal behavior. We're definitely going to see a reduction in business travel. This is definitely making it very clear that we don't need to travel as much as we have in the past to get our jobs done. We'll definitely see more distributed workforces. So rather than working from home being somewhat of a stigma in many corporations, I think we'll see this to be encouraged, and this will also obviously, save business expenses both in terms of travel and required office space. It's already forcing the private sector to rethink, the distribution of their workforce and our productivity levels, and of course the expenses associated with that. So we can see those changes happening already.
All right. Jeff, thanks. Appreciate it. We'll talk again. Jeff Brown, Chief Technology Analyst for Bonner and Partners.